discuss the historic NSG waiver for India, we are joined in the studio by Dr. Bhaskar, Balakrishnan, former ambassador and well-known distinguished diplomat. Thanks very much, sir, for being with us. How would you look at this from the diplomatic point of view? A big achievement, would you say?
Yes, I think all those who reacted to this deal, I share their view that this is a very important achievement, positive achievement. One might almost say that Lord Ganesha has smiled on us this week. The door to international cooperation, which was firmly locked for 34 years, has now been opened. Many move on from there. One road leads to the US Congress, which has to clear the subsequent agreement. But there are others which lead to other major suppliers like Russia, which already has a presence in India's civil nuclear program, France and other countries. And of course we have further discussions with the IAEA regarding protocols and all kinds of administrative and technical measures. Now but we have to now create an enabling environment for the customers to come in and cooperate with us, international players. This is that we may have to open the door to private participation in this sector, which has been locked so far as part of our internal policy. So a lot of implications flow from this, and I think the world has taken note of Foreign Minister Pranab Mukherjee's key statement, which laid down India's basic policy on three key issues: testing, no first use, and working towards a fissile materials cut-off treaty. So these are kind of psychologically kind of benchmarks for India's policy. Now, of course, some critics are worried about our strategic program. A strategic program will now have to be handled entirely separately and based on our own resources and technology. We cannot have any leakage from the civil program into this, which means that this will now be entirely the responsibility of the government. Our atomic energy establishment will now have to deal with the strategic program, and in a way it will be a relief that they can allow private participation in the civil program. It will free their, because there is they can handle both these things.
Absolutely. So they can concentrate on the military aspect.
Concentrate on the strategic.
The international community seems to recognize that India does have a military program. That itself is also an achievement. We've not given it up at all in any respect. Of course, the opposition says that we've given up our right to test. That's not true, because we've said that we've had a unilateral moratorium. What's the difference?
Yeah, that's not factually true. We have the sovereign right to test at all times. We have declared a voluntary unilateral moratorium. But should there be a major change in the international environment, for example, if there is a whole tests by other nuclear weapon states, especially in our neighborhood, we would be perfectly free to review our policy.
Right. And let's look at the US's role in this entire, in getting us this waiver. They've worked with some sort of urgency within the NSG over the last 3 days. What would you have to say about that? And taking that same urgency into the US Congress, where this deal has to be ratified.
The US, of course, has been a prime mover in this whole project and used its influence and clout at all levels to get it through, especially at the last stages when there were blockages with 2 or 3 countries. Now the deal that the waivers come through the NSG, the pressure of the US Congress will be more, because as I said, there are roads leading to Russia, France and other countries which can be explored. So the US Congress would have to take into account the point that American companies should not be put at a disadvantage with regard relative to other companies from other countries. So that would add a sense of urgency to the US Congress. Of course, there is a kind of in the US system, the President and the Congress often there is a conflict in terms of who manages foreign policy. The President would like to have maximum freedom to manage foreign policy, whereas the Congress is often seen as intrusion into the President's domain. So this, these differences of approach may be there, but on the whole there is large-scale overwhelming bipartisan support for going ahead with cooperation with India in this field, and it is also foreseen that India cooperation will be both widened and deepened. On a
but do you foresee a problem in case it doesn't go through this session of the US Congress? They may have could they have a lame duck session after that and just pass it? Is it possible, or we have to wait for the next president?
Well, given the statements we have now seen from the US, it seems that the US government has administration has every intention of pushing this through using all kinds of procedural loopholes possible.
Right.
And given the overwhelming support in the Congress for this, there's a good chance they may be able to pull it off, and especially since the NSG waiver has come within before September 8th.
Right.
But there are always uncertainties. The US Congress is sometimes unpredictable, and one has to wait and see closely. There is also the Indian lobby in the US, the American Indian lobby, which is making a very strong effort on members of Congress to get this through.
Right. I'm afraid we've run short of time. Thank you very much, Dr. Balakrishnan. Thank you for joining us here on this bulletin.
Thank you.